Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Lisum, and I'm coming you today with my amazing guest co-host, Jennifer Regular, and we're evolving women. I'm evolving. You're evolving. We're all evolving, and we're here to help each other to evolve. We want you to be filled up with uplifting messages, new perspectives, have some tools, some resources, maybe some new wellness ideas, some new mindset shifts. We want you to have a stronger belief in yourself, and we're here to give you permission to be your best self. So, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Evolving Women with Jennifer Regular. Hi, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. And
Thank
thank
you.
you to our viewers and listeners for being here. We are going to be referring to and talking about this book, Leaving the Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. And both Jennifer and myself are featured in this book. It's a 22 multi author book. And Jennifer just happens to be chapter 5. So we're going to delve a little bit into that chapter here today. So thank you so much for this opportunity to dive a little deeper, Jennifer, into your story. So
Oh,
thank
thank you so much, Teresa. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and share about what we wrote about and what readers can find in there.
So what I want to start off with, because the chapters are broken into the author's story and then a little lesson at the end. So I want to just kind of start. I know it's a long journey you've been on, but just kind of
Mm.
encapsulate it about your life was going along and then things started happening and everything just kind of broke apart. And it almost sounds like you hit rock bottom. And you've
Mm.
since then you've been able to rise from the ashes. So if you want to give us a short synopsis of your journey, I'd love to hear it. And I'd love for everybody else to hear it as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because, well, first of all, number 5 has been a prominent number in my life. It's my favorite number.
Oh,
So it's kind of fun
cool.
that I ended up in chapter 5. And with the title Leading with Passion, which is also interesting because I consider myself multi-passionate. I get so excited, enthusiastic about everything. So many ideas. I've taken many paths, a lot along the way necessarily paths. It was all part of my path, but the path certainly wasn't linear. So it was a lot of pivots through like 16 different positions within the social service industry and 5 different ways of engaging with entrepreneurship and a lot of different places that I lived in and got to experience. And so what I realized though, when you break up that word passion, is that it's pass I on. And that
Mm,
I is your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. And it was interesting how that insight came about because I, like you said, was going along with my life, living the way that I thought it was going to be, and then made decisions of things that I never thought I would have, like owning a house and getting married. And that wasn't actually part of the plan, but it is what unfolded along the path and led the way. Only that marriage was not great. It was highly dysfunctional. It was actually abusive. There was a lot of trauma involved in there. There were even threats on my life involved there.
mm,
And
wow.
it was definitely not the place that I wanted to be, and so misaligned with the trajectory that I thought I would be on and that I was taking. And there was a lot of pivotal moments in the time, but I'm focusing on this one because that was when I made that decision to leave and I was getting sorted. Was in a transitional space and I was just lying in bed and looking up the ceiling. I felt completely emotionally exhausted, depleted. I couldn't think. I had no vision for my life anymore because I just created this whole confusion about what future looked like and came distance myself from what was meaningful and aligned with my truth and who I was. All of that kind of broke down and really fell apart. And so I'm lying there just lost, basically numbed out to everything and just staring up at the ceiling and just, as a visionary, not having a vision, it's like I didn't even exist anymore. And then this energy came in. It was almost like a lightning bolt energy, this surge that like jolted me up. It was almost like a wake up call. Have you ever had one of
Mhm.
those where it's just like all of a sudden
Like a literal one, it sounds
sure,
like.
and you have this energy. Yeah. Yeah. And so I sat up and my life wasn't over yet. It felt like my life was over yet, but it was not the way that I wanted it to end. And there's a lot more detail around that, of course, in the story and in the book. But that's where I came in with the insight about passion and what that truly meant. It wasn't just an energy, it was a calling. And even though on the surface it seemed like I wasn't on the right path, I actually was. It was a way of bringing me into alignment and to lead my life with that passion that I was here to pass on. Like, what was that? What is that? And so that led me on a whole journey to find out, a quest to discover myself, heal the
Mm,
relationship with myself, restore my sense of purpose, really, right? And to have that passion again, that enthusiasm, that multi-passionate way of being
mhm,
that I spoke about
mhm.
earlier. And so I learned a lot. I learned a lot along the way. And some of those insights are in the book too, in a very practical way of how others can also tune into their soul's mission, what they're meant to do, that they're here to pass on. So it was, yeah, you're right. It was quite the journey I've been on.
No, it certainly sounded like it. But I love that pass I on for passion. I had
Mm,
never seen it or heard it like that before. So that was really insightful. So thank you
mm,
for that. How am
mm.
I going to pass I on with my passion? I love that.
Yeah.
Your quest to discover yourself. Just maybe rediscover yourself. I mean, it sounds like your identity was pretty much lost
Mm-hmm.
or blown apart, whatever way you want to describe it. And you had to go back and either recreate a new identity, rediscover your new identity, um, envision a new identity and step into it. So, how would you describe that? Like, what wording would you use?
Mm-hmm. Reclaiming the inner visionary,
Mm,
reclaiming that main aspect of who I was, kind of like the leader of the pack, so to speak, of all parts of my being.
mm,
And it's interesting, it wasn't so much about re-identifying myself or claiming that new identity. It was actually about discovering more aspects of myself, of who I
mm,
am, and it was all of those things. It was the good, the bad,
mm,
and the ugly,
mm.
the um not discovering like the one thing that I'm about, because we're not just one thing. I mean, there's
Right.
so many parts of us. And then so discovering those other parts of ourselves, right? That come through different lessons, experiences, relationships, learnings that we have along the way. And then the most important thing is to integrate that, to gather those soul pieces. And the healing is really about wholeness, right? And that alignment. So it was about coming into alignment with my truth, with what I truly valued, with who I here to be and what I'm here to do, and to lead with conviction,
Mm,
right? Really lighting the path to profound impact and collective transformation, which is the other part of that chapter in chapter 5 of The Ultimate Guide to Leaving Your Legacy. Because I wasn't just here for me. I know that for sure. One thing for certain is that I didn't come to this earth for me, for my sake, right? I came here to gather other souls and help guide that destiny of souls into their most empowered way of being. And of course, I had to learn how to embody that for myself first, right? And then
mhm,
be a role model of the light. And how do I support others along their journey to be in their highest form, in their highest light, for their eye to be passed on in this lifetime? So it's been a lot of, what's the highest contribution can I make? What is the collaboration partners that I need to come together, my soul family, essentially, where we
Mm-hmm.
can come together and really raise the vibration and hold the frequency together of what it means to live in, the age of Aquarius and this,
Mm-hmm.
ascend into our evolutionary path as the soul beings that we are. And of course, how to nurture ourselves in the process, how to sustain our energy and our passion, because as visionaries, it's our energy and passion that has the greatest impact. So I'm all about how to sustain that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not so much about the identity, it's kind of, integrating the old with the past, with the present and the future, and how
Mm-hmm.
that all looks. And then also, what I meant to be offering from that place of wholeness, from being in integrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is all about healing and wholeness and honesty and standing in your truth and being authentic and being aligned with my values, right? My top three core values really is about autonomy, integrity, and spirituality. And in those, 16 positions that I had trying to help people when I was in social services, didn't really line up with any of those things because I
Mm-hmm.
was bound by legislation. So I didn't have the autonomy and the freedom to do
Mm-hmm.
my
Yep.
thing, right?
Yep.
Although I found that a little bit within there because I still had my approach of how I went into those
Yep.
positions,
Right.
those roles,
Right.
right?
Yep.
The integrity was hard because there's a lot of value conflicts too within that
Mm-hmm.
profession and not really any room there for spirituality. So I had to find out how I can align with those values outside of that. So I did a lot of personal growth and development work as well, which is something I also encourage, like we may not always be working in the place that we feel most fulfilled in, right? There might be some survival needs that we're wanting to meet. And so there's other ways that our soul can be expressed so that we don't become so disconnected from the truth of our being and our purpose, our sense of purpose and meaning and fulfillment in our life.
So much in there. So much. I jotted down a few things. I love you talked a lot about aligning with our truth. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing there's many, many people walking around today that are not aligned. Like you said, you were in a position that you couldn't align with your values. And
Mm-hmm.
that takes a lot of energy out of you and, maybe diminishes your spirit and your light. And you have to work within this small, limited area, this, energetic
Mm-hmm.
space because of not being aligned. So I love that you came back into alignment with your truth. More of us need to do that. And I really love that we didn't come in for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't come in for ourselves. And sometimes I think that's easy to forget. Like we're not just here for ourselves. I mean, we have to take care of ourselves
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and grow ourselves, but we're not here solely for ourselves. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a great reminder. Thank you so much for
Mm-hmm.
that. Autonomy. I remember when I was working before I retired. Yeah, autonomy was like slim to none, but I worked within those parameters and
Mm-hmm.
kind of tried to shine my light within those limitations.
Yeah.
So yeah, reclaiming ourselves, discovering more aspects. I love that
Mm-hmm.
because when we are working in from a limited paradigm, we don't realize there's other aspects that we could be integrating with, like that.
Yeah.
That is a
Expansion.
huge, yes, that is
Yeah.
huge.
Mm-hmm.
Other aspects of ourselves that we're not seeing, we're not aware of, unless we go looking, we and are intentionally out there, doing that. Oh, I just love that whole idea of discovering more
Mm-hmm.
aspects about ourselves. Who just that phrase alone could really be caused to journal or really think and contemplate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun to explore, you know, to
Well,
be curious about that and to have
mm-hmm.
fun with that. And that journey of self-discovery is really
Mm-hmm.
important. And that was actually what my solo book about 10 years ago, when that was published, about embracing your power. And it is a journal of self-discovery, of finding that and healing that relationship with self. And there's a lot of prompts in there too to support that process of doing that. But you mentioned too, how people are just kind of going around and not being in alignment. And that's true. There is such a disconnect, right? And that's what we want to be able to restore, is to be able to reconnect with ourselves, our values, to reconnect with each other,
Mm,
reconnect with our purpose, and reconnect consciously
yeah.
as well. That conscious connection is so important, is the number one first thing to do when you're feeling out of sorts, when you're trying to cope with all of the chaos and the uncertainty and the fear and the obligations and the guilt.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing to do is consciously connect again, and that's with your higher power, your higher self, the God of your understanding, the universe, consciously connecting with that greater power, that is always guiding us, it is always available to us, to plug back into that, to resource ourselves through that
Mm-hmm.
life force energy, so that we feel alive again, that we have the energy to go on with life. And like I said, like, to sustain our energy and passion so we can really live out our soul's mission.
I love that. I saw a quote just last week about what would it be like if if we reconnected ourselves as much as we reconnect and recharge our bot or our phone. Like we
Yes,
recharge our phone constantly, but we forget to recharge our own body
that's right.
or
Exactly.
reconnect in.
Mm-hmm.
So I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I just had to giggle when I saw that. Like, oh my God, that is so
Yeah.
true. I admit to that certainly
Yeah.
for myself, but so many. I mean, the chapter is short. It's not a full length book. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, you have another book people can go grab and read the entirety of it. But you packed a lot in that small chapter, I think. So I
Mm-hmm.
applaud you for that. And I want to dive a little bit into the lessons section where
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned your values. You already mentioned the three values, but I went through probably most of my life not being clear on what my values were. I mean, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until like after my kids were grown that I really did the exercise of looking and discovering and figuring out what are my values.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always something I think is really great for people to do. Just it doesn't take a ton of time, but it does
Mm-hmm.
take some effort to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what those values are. You're probably unconsciously living those values without
Mm-hmm.
even realizing it. But if you could put words to it, and like you said, you could list out your three. Like I have two that I can list out, health and family. Family is my number one
Mm-hmm.
value. My health, I can't remember what the other ones are off the top of my head, which is kind of sad. I love that you can just like boom, boom, boom. These are my values. And I'm sure it helps make decision making a whole lot easier because
Yeah,
if
that's
things
true.
are not aligning with those values, then it's a no.
Right. Right. And you feel that on some level, right? Even if you're not 100% clear on what your values are, or maybe you can't like put a name on it right away, you can feel that, what resonates with you and what doesn't.
Right.
Anyone
Feel,
who
feel.
practices appreciation and gratitude, notice what it's for, because that's something you're valuing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, often we go through values lists, right? I'm like, oh, I like that one. Yep, I like that one. And then we circle
Mm-hmm.
them, right? Or we check that
Oh
one
yeah,
off.
that's what I did.
Yeah. We can go even deeper than that, though, when we look at what pisses us off, right? Like, what are we in conflict with? What are we frustrated about? Because those
Mm-hmm.
indicate value conflicts,
Yeah, that's great.
right? And so we look at what needs aren't being met there, or where it doesn't connect with your belief or a conviction about something. That's one way, like kind of like a contrast to clarity.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the idea of going through some memories, things that you had so much love and appreciation for, that you felt fulfilled by, that
Mm.
you felt joy, that joy and gratitude, right? Really elevated kind of frequencies there. what were those things, right? Write about that, or really feel into the memory of that and really bring it in, because we can do that, right? There's no time and space. We can feel that as if it's
Mm-hmm.
happening right now again. And what does that show? Like for you, maybe it'll be an instant family memory that comes up, right? Or when you're at your most optimal health, and how
Mm-hmm.
vibrant and
Yeah.
vital and
Yeah.
energetic you felt, And so those are the feelings that we want to carry and bring forth and use for fuel, right? Premium fuel to move us
Mm-hmm.
forward, right? And to keep propelling us in that way. Those are the things that we value too. Those are the things that light us up.
Yeah, I'm going to highly suggest and recommend our viewers and listeners to really think about what they value because it
Yeah.
really does simplify different things in your life that you're like, oh, yeah, no, no, thank you. That's not aligning with what I believe, what I love, I love that you said what brings you joy. That's what you value. So think
Mm-hmm.
on those things. And what triggers you, think on those things, because then that's a
Mm-hmm.
value conflict. Love
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
it's it's simple. It's a simple concepts for sure.
Yeah. And
There
going
was
back to that I, it's also
mhm.
important that to recognize that you are of value.
Yes,
So
yes.
self-appreciation and building the capacity
Hmm.
for that and recognizing you have value. And that's what
Hmm.
you're here to pass on. The spirit, that core essence of who you are is very valuable to other people,
Yeah,
right? And that's
thank you.
that's becoming a living legacy.
Oh,
Yeah.
love that. I was just going to go over to living legacy. I love
Oh,
that
right on. Okay.
phrase. Love that phrase.
Yeah. Mm,
And I don't know if people think about that enough.
mm,
We are living our legacy. Like had a conversation about having a legacy or what do you want to leave as a legacy, but actually living it in the moment is
mm-hmm,
probably what we all want to do and should be doing. I mean, that's
mm,
every decision, every word, all the energy we're putting out. Those are our legacies
mm-hmm.
that we're leaving behind and
Exactly.
passing on. And if we had
Exactly.
more conscious awareness around that, man, whew, the world would be such an awesome place, which it is awesome now, but it'd be even better.
Yeah.
Um, wow. Whew. So some of the things I picked out of the lesson part, if I could, I mean, there's so much to talk about. I'm going to
Mm,
try to narrow it down a little bit, but
okay.
some of the things that resonated with me in the lesson section was take action when inspiration hits.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
We need to
huge.
have the space to do that, right? So
Hmm.
cultivating spaciousness so that when inspiration hits, we can move on that.
Yeah, love that. And that's something I do try to do. I know when inspiration hits and I put it on the back burner, I may never get back to it again.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me just, all right, I just got to do it right now because the thought popped in my head. So, but that takes an awareness of when that inspiration is being given to you
Hmm.
and when it hits you.
Being open
Protect.
to receive it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So if
exactly.
we're too busy,
Yes,
it's not
yes.
coming in. There's no room
Which
to
is what you
receive it.
said, leave space. Yeah, for
Yes. So
those,
important.
so that to be received. Love that. And protecting your energy. I guess that's one of my values now that I say it out loud, protecting my energy. That's why I don't watch the news. I don't do certain things because I'm very protective of my energy. I want it to be a certain way and I don't want it to, be colored by anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what your perspective is on that phrase.
I think it's there. Well, I go into, of course, encouraging people to read that and to receive it in the way that's meaningful for them, like you just shared of how you brought awareness into your life around that, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we all will interpret it differently depending on
Yes,
where
why
we're
not?
at. Yes.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
We already mentioned this a little bit, prioritizing self-care. Yes, we're here for other people, but we do have to fill our own cup before we can really serve others at a high level. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that. We already talked about defining our values,
Mm-hmm.
which I think might lead into defining our mission. Do they go together or are they two separate ideas?
Right. And that's what my work is really about, is aligning and activating your true passion. So I go deep with individuals and organizations to be able to do that, to know the how, to get the how to. Yeah.
Living authentically, um, be yourself. I know we throw that around a lot.
Hmm.
And sometimes I remember way back, it's like I was thinking, what the heck does that even mean? Like, I don't even know. I mean,
Hmm.
now I have a better understanding of it. Maybe at
Hmm.
that point in time, I was not being authentic. So that's why I didn't understand it.
Ah,
But
uh-huh.
what's your thoughts on living authentically?
Yeah, that's where integrity comes in. That's where living in your truth comes in, which means that you're being totally honest, that you're not holding back. Not that you have to be like unfiltered necessarily, because it's going to be received better by other people, but it means being in alignment, right, with what you value. It's being in integrity, truthfully, and being
And
honest.
maybe in alignment with that other person and where they're at, like you said, so they can receive it in a way that is going to serve them.
Yeah, we talk about gathering with like minds and like souls, like-hearted people, right? And that's where we feel better, that we can be more ourselves, that we
Hmm.
can relax
Right,
more
right,
because it's
right.
easy to express, and sometimes we don't even have to explain or justify anything or defend ourselves because
Hmm.
we can just be ourselves, right? And
Right.
authenticity is being real. It's being ourselves fully, you know?
Which I said some people may not have ever had that opportunity.
Exactly.
It may
Yeah,
be a foreign concept to
definitely.
be their authentic selves because they haven't had the pleasure of being around people of like minds.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I said, where I was maybe 20 years ago, authenticity was kind of like a hollow word to me. Like, yeah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
get it. Now
Mm-hmm.
it does mean a lot more. I understand it. My goal is always to be authentic, you
Mm-hmm.
know, just as an example, if I screw something up, oh well, that's just my authentic self. I'm not trying to have that facade anymore,
Mm-hmm.
which is how I used to live. A facade, which it seems like a lot of us are walking around with that facade. We're afraid
Yeah.
people are going to see our authentic self. But if we all
Yeah.
know we're all these facades, then does it matter if we drop those facades and be our authentic self? We'd have so much more energy. And our lives would be so
Yeah.
much better if we weren't holding that facade in our energy field.
Yeah. And it's getting being able to get in touch with who you are. And it's all that self-discovery journey that we talk about, right? Even think about like authentic cuisine, right? Like authentic Greek or authentic Chinese food or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right? Like there's people who replicate that can do a pretty good job of making Chinese food, even though they're not Chinese, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? But everyone wants that authentic Chinese
Mm-hmm.
experience, right? Because that's truly the source, like going right to the source of
Mm-hmm.
where it's from and where it originates. And having that sort of experience is much more fulfilling than trying to do something to live up to someone else's
Yeah.
standards,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? In our
Yeah.
own lives too, right? Rather than people pleasing or conforming or trying to uh, gain approval or validation
Mm-hmm.
or live up to
Mm-hmm.
someone else's expectations. That's not being authentic, right? That's the
Right.
opposite.
Right. Right.
Right?
For sure,
Yeah.
man.
Hmm.
Whew. And it does, yes, it is a process. It is a journey of
Yeah.
self-discovery for sure.
Yeah, and that's why there's so much out there about
Mm-hmm.
being authentic, right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
still learning. We're
Mm-hmm.
still learning
Oh, for
and
sure.
evolving. Yeah.
For sure. Oh my gosh, so many gems in here. So appreciate this conversation, man. There's so much more I
Likewise.
could talk about, but
Hmm.
I know we're coming close to the end of our time together in this episode. So I'm going to highly encourage people to go grab this book. It's on Amazon. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Chapter 5 for Jennifer, chapter 8 for me, just so you know. There's a
Yay.
lot of good stuff in here. I will admit I have not gotten through all of it yet. Um, I'm just chipping away at it, but good stuff in there. Lots of things to get you thinking, planting some
Mm-hmm.
seeds. Yeah, seeing things from a different perspective. And that's all part of our growth journey. That's what I love about this kind of stuff. So check it
Mm-hmm.
out. We so appreciate you being vulnerable in this chapter and sharing with us your journey. And that takes a lot for anyone, yourself included, to open yourself up so we could see what was happening at that particular point in your life. So thank you for having the courage to put that in print forever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Thank
it
you
is
so much,
scary,
Teresa.
isn't it? It's
Mm.
scary when you do
Oh,
that
yeah,
and knowing
absolutely.
that other people are seeing what was happening. But I think it's so helpful because other
Mm-hmm.
people may be going through something similar and they could see that, oh, yes, there is hope at the end of that tunnel.
Yes. Yes.
So
Trust the
that's,
process. Mm-hmm.
yes. So thank you for being that hope at the end of the tunnel for many people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I so appreciate what you're doing out in the world as well. Where can people get a hold of you?
Probably the best way is just go to my website because you'll find all the different social channels and podcasts and blogs and things there. And it's lightingthepath.ca.
Yes, she has her own podcast, so watch for that. What's the name of the podcast?
Awaken and Descend. It's on
There you
YouTube.
go.
It's a YouTube show.
Yes, yes. So look for that. We will put links in the description. So make sure you look for that and check out the book. Check out Jennifer. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening in. We appreciate you. You guys
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Thanks for listening.